Do you spend too much time worried about what other people are thinking about you? Well, if that's you, then trust me, you are not alone. If you've ever felt like you're constantly trying to please people or trying to seek approval, then pay attention to this episode because we're going to get into some tips and some ways to get over the thoughts of feeling like we constantly have to please other people. Stay tuned. Welcome to Quiet Voice, Fearless Mind, where we help introverts and aspiring leaders to become who they want to be. My name is Terrence Lee, aka the Introvert Leader. Welcome to the show. If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure and hit the subscribe button to get more of our content in the future. And also make sure if you find this video to be helpful to hit the like button and also comment and let me know your thoughts. I really would like to know what you think about the topic that we're going to cover here today. So what's the problem with us caring too much about what other people think? Well, I think one of the biggest problems with it is that we limit ourselves. We really limit ourselves, right? Because what starts to happen is with everything that we do, with every dream that we have, with every goal that we set out to achieve, we start to limit ourselves. Because now what happens is before we make any moves, before we make decisions, we constantly are thinking about what are these other people going to think about my decision? What are these other people going to think about what I'm doing? So as opposed to just going for our goals and going for what we want, a lot of times we'll hold back because we're overthinking. If you're watching this or listening and you're someone that's more introverted, a lot of times we can tend to overthink. That's just one of the things that happens. We'll make up these entire scenarios in our heads and we'll just overthink a situation and we'll worry too much about the thoughts of somebody else and it'll keep us from greatness. So how do we defeat that and how do we overcome that? That's what we're going to be talking about. Introverts are too quiet and too weak to lead. Have you ever heard this before? Well, my name is Terrence, and for years as an introvert, I didn't think I had what it took to be a leader. What I learned was being an introvert is my superpower. If you want to learn how to have success as an introvert, then go to quietvoicefearlessleader.com to learn more. So the first tip that is going to help with trying to just stop caring so much about what other people are thinking about you is really simple. And it's going to sound cheesy. It's going to sound cliche. It's going to sound like, hundreds of other self-help books that you've read or heard about out there. But you've got to love yourself, okay? You have got to love yourself. When you look in the mirror in the morning, what do you see? Do you see someone that feels confident? Do you see someone that feels self-assured? Or do you see someone that feels worried? Someone that feels stressed? The way that we view ourselves makes such a huge difference in our lives. I mean, I can recall a time where I would look at myself and I would question a lot. I would question if I really was worthy. I would question if I really lived up to the quote unquote whatever persona I was putting on at the time, because there were times in my life where I was putting on a persona. I was trying to fit some narrative of what I thought I was supposed to be or who I thought I was supposed to be. And when I would be alone with myself, no one else would know it. But when I was alone, I knew I was being fake at times. And I wasn't happy about that. I didn't feel as confident. I didn't feel as self-assured. And so when you're in that mindset, it's very easy to just constantly be thinking and worrying about the thoughts of everyone else. It's like when I walk out into the world, I'm trying to please everyone. I'm trying to make sure everyone likes me, make sure everyone's good with how I am, make sure they're good with, what I'm doing, as opposed to walking in my truth, walking in who I am, walking in a state of confidence, a state of self-assuredness. When I leave the house, whatever happens throughout my day, I'm going to take it for what it is, and I believe in myself. Doesn't matter what someone else says or what I might think they might be saying about me. None of that matters, because at the end of the day, I'm sure in myself, I'm confident, and I'm good. So very big difference in mindsets, right? Very big difference. So when you look in the mirror, what do you see? So the very first thing, because if we don't get this step right, then nothing else really matters, right? We're going to constantly be worrying about the thoughts of everyone else if we don't love ourselves first. So we got to start there. Very, very key. Again, I know it might sound cheesy, but trust me, I had to start here. That had to be the basis and the baseline before I could get to anything else with this. So love yourself first. So tip number 2, and this is one that is truly, I believe, freeing. I think this really can help to free you. It was very freeing to me when I began to lean into it. But it's just to ask one simple question. Very simple. Why do you care? Why do you care? Like, this is something for me. When I really began to dig into it and think about it, a lot of the things that I was caring so much about and all these things just really didn't matter. But I had to get to the root of why I cared so much. So for me, if I'm being honest, a lot of it had to do with me having more of an introverted personality. I thought that there was something wrong with that. Like when I would be in rooms with different people or with friends, associates, or whatever, I felt like I had to act a certain way. Like if everyone else was talking and everyone else was laughing and everything like that, and if I'm in the room and I'm not saying anything, I viewed that as, oh man, they're going to think like I'm not cool. They're going to think, man, this dude is boring, or whatever they were going to think, right? And the reality is I can't even control any of that. Like I had no idea what these people were thinking, but I allowed my thoughts about what I thought they were thinking to make me feel away. Like when I really think about it now, it's crazy, but that's what I did to myself. And so I don't know, what the core of why you actually care so much about what people are thinking is, but for you, it might be something different. Maybe it's some just inner thought that you have that won't go away, where you feel like people view you in a certain way. And it may not even be founded on anything, but you just may have some perception that people view you away. Or maybe people actually do view you away. But even if that's the case, why do you care so much and give them so much power to where it affects you, right? So these are the kind of conversations we have to have with ourselves. We have to ask, why do I care so much? When I began to ask that, and when I began to also do a lot of just self-discovery, self-reflection, and I began to lean into my introversion, I began to realize, hey, being an introvert is actually not so bad. In fact, there are some things about it that are awesome. When I began to totally flip the narrative, it changed everything. So I want you to do the same thing. Like we talked about, loving yourself. So now it's, why do I care so much about what these people are thinking? And when you begin to get to the root of that, and in 99.9% of the cases, the things that, we think matter so much and are such a big deal, they're really not. When we really ask ourselves, like, why do I care so much? We can completely overcome any of those fears or any of those things that are holding us back. So ask yourself that question, really get to the root of it, and I promise it will free you and it'll really help you. And the third tip is one that is very big, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit before, but come to the realization that you have no control over other people's thoughts. We really don't. I mean, people are going to think what they're going to think about us. The only thing that we can control is the way that we are, the way that we conduct ourselves, walking in integrity, doing the right thing. I mean, we can do these things, right? But ultimately, what someone is going to think about us is what they're going to think. I mean, there's just nothing that you can do to control some of those things. I know that I've had some friendships in the past, and, friendships that we used to be really close and maybe now we're not as close, but I've thought through those situations, and at times I took it hard. I asked myself, well, what did I do? Did something happen? Could I have handled situations differently? Could I have not said this or said this different or whatever? And when I really analyzed some of these situations, I realized that there's really nothing that I could have done, right? Like sometimes people just grow apart. Situations just happen the way they happen. So, don't beat yourself up over situations. You can't control other people's thoughts. You can't control other people's actions. People are going to be who they're going to be. They're going to have their thoughts. And so ultimately, if you're being, the person that you need to be, if you're walking in integrity And, doing that, then you can hold your head high. I mean, there's really no reason for you to put yourself in this mental prison because that's really what it is. Like when we're so worried about other people's thoughts and how they view us, we're putting ourselves in a prison because we can't control their thoughts anyway. Right? So come to the realization that people are going to think what they're going to think. We have no control of it. And again, it's another thing that'll help to free you once you realize that you don't have that control. So just let that control go. So I really hope that you found this to be helpful. I hope that if you're someone that's been struggling with this, people pleasing or worrying about what people think too much, that you're able to take some of these tips and really implement them and use them and just, really change things for the better. I know that for me, I've really had to implement these things and remind myself of them because there are times where I still fall into the traps of worrying about people's thoughts. Okay, so before we go really quick, just wanted to leave with a quote from Quiet Voice Fearless Leader that I think speaks a little bit to what we're talking about here today. So it says, if you focus instead on being your authentic self and being comfortable with whatever comes with that, then it will truly change your life. And I think the key in that quote is whatever comes with that. So what does that mean? It means that you might be your authentic self and some people may still not like you. It means you may be your authentic self and you may not be accepted. You may not be a part of whatever the group is, quote unquote. But at the end of the day, if you're authentically being you, then you can hold your head high because you know that you didn't have to, please people that you really shouldn't have been trying to please. You didn't have to seek approval where it wasn't warranted. You can hold your head high because you're being you and you're being authentic. So listen, I really appreciate you tuning in to Quiet Voice Fearless Mind. This is a very interesting topic, a topic that is one I know a lot of people deal with. So I really hope that you found it helpful. And remember, there's only one you, there's only one life. So make it count. God bless.